Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Nice to hear your voice.
It's lovely. It's lovely to hear yours, always.
Listen, I wanted to... Could we just drop straight into content? I don't want to faff around.
Let's do it. No, okay. Well,
So
last week we talked at length about nothing, so go on.
This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
When I was in Italy a few weeks back, Lil and I had a very interesting conversation, which I found complex, I found difficult, and it was a conversation about taking care of each other when we get old. And of course, part of the reason it was complex for me is because I've got 8 years on her, so. The likelihood, just talking probabilities here, the likelihood that it's going in one direction is that it would be Lil looking after me. But we specifically talked about dementia.
Yeah.
And we talked about two things. Well, more than two things, but two things I think are interesting here. One is the notion of acceptance and how goddamn difficult that must be. That is when, first of all, if there are the sort of early signs of dementia, and say your partner is to say to you, I think I'm noticing these things, you need to get tested, or we need to go down and get you tested. And so there's something about that moment there and the I guess the terror of it. And so I've just dropped us into this, but let's just go for it anyway, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the second thing was what happens to the life of the other person, the partner who is, I think Lil used the word, the kind of romantic idea. I said, I'm not sure it's romantic, but of course I think it is. I think she was right. The sort of romantic idea of the partner who unfailingly looks after their demented spouse.
Yeah.
And Lil was saying, and I think she's right, but it was difficult, was saying, I'm not going to be, if it were you, she was basically saying, I'm not going to be that. Yes, I'll take care of you, but I also will have my own life to live. Yeah. And I mean, that's it. That's me laying it out, and I'm super curious to hear your thinking about that. And does it make sense of the kind of, the slight sort of, the not awkwardness, the slight sense of unease I felt?
Yeah. Yeah, of course it makes sense, because we are sold all sorts of narratives, aren't we, about life partners. We're told all sorts of stories about sacrifice. And we're told who's a good partner and who's a bad partner through those kinds of narratives. I have a friend who's much, much older than me, whose partner is in a care home now because of dementia, and he's been in there 3, maybe 4 years.
Yeah. And
it was clear that he was slowly becoming demented, quite slowly, and he was aware of it. And he said, okay, this is the strategy. This is what we're going to do. This is the home I'd like to go into.
Wow.
And they discussed it. And she said, are you sure? And he said, yes. And this is how I want it to go. And obviously now his dementia has fully bloomed. He is very clearly not the person that he was before. He regularly claims that he's being held hostage. He variously thinks he's at school or in prison or on a ship, and requests, demands, pleads to be let out, to come home. Like any process of dementia, this is not a straight line, and there are steps
Sure.
forward, steps back.
Sure, and yeah, exactly, yeah.
And
Go
it's
on.
and I think that has taught me such a lot, that the person that she sees is kind of like the host of who he used to be.
As in the kind of virus, a host virus.
Yeah. As if his personality was a virus.
Yeah. Yeah.
That he's
It's like,
that
yeah, and
he's
this body or something was a
yeah,
host for that personality.
exactly, and his body is slowly recovering from the viral
of being a human being.
Yeah, exactly. And Bob and I have talked about this quite a lot, and I say the same things to her that she says to me, which is, yeah, this is a good idea. I want you to move on. I don't want you to actually take responsibility for me in that way. I want you to continue to have a life.
Could you anyway? How could you take responsibility for?
And it's interesting that she has said the same thing that I have said, which is the romantic bit, which is like, I don't know that I could begin a life with another person when your body is still in the world. And it's like, it's impossible to answer that question, because who knows how I will feel when I get
Or
there.
who you'd meet or whatever.
Yeah, but
also
at
desire
present,
and
yeah. But I mean, I think...
I mean, that's what we weren't talking about. That we weren't talking about that. We weren't even talking about that possibility. We were just talking about just getting on with one's own life.
I think for me and for Bob, our lives are each other. We're so deeply, if you want to pathologize it, codependent. If you want to not pathologize it, enmeshed.
Connected.
Yeah. I think... I don't think codependent, by the way. I was just jumping ahead of somebody who might want to offer a diagnosis of me.
You mean a particular listener? Stand down, listener. Get off your gumboot psychology high horse.
Exactly. Don't go wading around in my puddly brain. So I find it both easy and difficult to respond to that, because the easy bit is, yeah, absolutely, I think what my friend has done makes the most sense. It's entirely perfect, and I respect her hugely and think it is 100% what she needs to do, and I can't imagine a world in which I would do it, mostly because I'm not currently being presented with that. And also, this is the romantic bit. This is the bit that Lil has very sensibly, I think, already laid a kind of a line down against. Because the romantic bit for me is, but Bob is not the same person who I met when she was 19 and when I was 19. I'm not the same person that Bob met. And it's been such a privilege to watch her flower and grow and wilt and, die back and then come through again, that maybe I would want to be part of the narrative of who she is in the process of becoming, and vice versa. I'm not assuming, but I can't project. Yeah. But so it's, what about you? What's your? Because you said it was confronting and it was challenging. Tell me about what that does for you, as the potentially older version.
Yeah, and just to repeat, I guess it's more likely, although I don't have a big history of dementia in my family. A little bit on my mother's side, but anyway, so yeah, who knows? But let's say it goes that way, that I become demented. I mean, first of all, I can't. I can't. Certainly, not many situations come to mind that would be more challenging than that as a human being, and the temptation to imagine that or to hope that it's not happening, and to hold on to the idea that it's not happening. I wonder how rare it is for someone to recognize and to accept that, so there's that aspect of it, which I think partly because the way I am as a thinking human being is, I see it as not that it's not an important part of lots of people or everyone perhaps, but it's certainly there's what people say about me is something to do with how I think and the kinds of things I bring to conversation. So I see it as being an important part of my personality, the viral load of my personality. So there's something there which would be initially, and the way I might meet, like, can there be grace in the meeting of that diagnosis or that experience? Those two things not necessarily aligning, the experiences and the diagnosis, until they do align. And then the second thing, which I think was entirely agreeable, and by that I mean I completely agreed with Lil, that I wouldn't want that to be any other way. But there was this sort of bluntness and the starkness of it, which I think it made me feel a little alone in that moment. And of course, this is all imagined, right? This is all hypothetical. And I had just a little moment of going, oof. Not that I would, and with no doubt in my mind, or no sense that there was something, that there was an argument to be made, an argument against that to be made, that idea. And so, I don't think there's much more to it than that. Although perhaps there's an interesting thing to think through here, which is when a feeling we have is different from what we understand to be right. And maybe that feeling doesn't hang around. Maybe it was just a little spike at that moment. It's not like I'm still hanging on to it now, as if It's not like
but the thing is, isn't it? It's the you now is wanting to protect the you then, as if the you then is the same as the you now in dialogue and in relation with the them now.
Which makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense, because what would you, if you were to just sort of say, what do you want for Lil from her life? You want her to be fulfilled, to be engaged, to be part of the world, to be
individuated,
happy.
all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, but I already that's a terrible word. I am in a dialogue. There's no. I don't know why the language of partnership is being so patriarchal today. I already allow that to happen. I already let that happen. That is already happening in the relationality between us. Why would you want it to be different when you're, when your capacity is diminished? Why would you suddenly want this person who you value for their independence and for their uniqueness to be dimmed by by just being a carer for you without any recognition of their needs? Yeah,
and I mean, completely. And maybe dementia is actually an easy example. It's in this respect. Because
I think a physical disability of kind of like,
exactly.
Actually...
Exactly, where I was sort of completely, my mind was still active, but my capacity to move or my capacity to express myself, like that, I think that probably is more complicated or more, messes this up even more, in many respects, dementia, because it's that sort of, what you described it, the sort of shell or the host is just a kind of thing, the person's not there really. It's not. There's no longer them, you might say. Yeah. But in these other scenarios,
I know.
I still feel the same thing, but wow, it gets super complicated or much more complicated very quickly.
Much more complicated, and I think also, and this is such a crap analogy, but also maybe it's not. When you catch a cold slightly earlier than your partner catches a cold, or let's say flu, one of the ones that really lays you low, but you're maybe 3 or 4 days ahead of the virus, and then it's in the house at the same time, and you're both doing that thing where you're just kind of lying there sweating and going, ugh. And then there's the moment where they keep it a little bit longer and you're on the up, but you're still not really well, and then you've got to take care of the person, because they were taking care of you for the first 4 days when you were ill. and then you're like, oh, I must make them soup, but you're doing it through fog, and you're doing it with a headache, and you're doing it all post-virally, and you're still not really well. I imagine that's what taking care of somebody when you're older is like, because it's not like you're in the body that you're in now. You're in a body which has been diminished a bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're already working a deficit. I say all of this having two parents in their mid-80s and watching them sort of do this, and it's really, really interesting. I think they manage it quite well. And both of them are so active and they're so busy, but they're kind of like, last week you talked about sifting clay in the shade.
Yeah. Not playing cards.
That. No, but they do that. They in their days they work out where the sun is fully on them, and where they just have to go, no, I'm going to sift some clay in the shade. And so my dad will work hard and then just go, now I'm going to go and have a shower and go to sleep for an hour. And so they're really, both of them, very, very good at not doing anything beyond their physical capacity, which seems to help the pair of them take care of themselves and one another. That
they're more or less the same age, right?
There's like about 11 months in it. So my mum's birthday's in January. No, so 10 months. My dad's birthday's in April. He's the year ahead of her. She's the year behind. So
I think the moral of the story, of course, is just
marry somebody the same age.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or
and
the woman's slightly older, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is the case for me and Bob. She's got 16 days on me because we are literally. She's currently a year older than me.
Yeah.
She's got that for the next couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think what
lot.
you said was, I think that thing about, it's one of the most difficult things to do, isn't it? Which is because we're imagining futures, yet there's aspects of the futures that we're not taking into account, that it's very hard to take into account. You could say there's environmental conditions which will be changing, but there's also, as you say, the things about our bodies that we can imagine. I can imagine being a 70-year-old. It's not that far ahead. It's not that far away. I can imagine being a 65 or a 75-year-old. But I can't imagine all the things that might happen to me. I can look at other 70-year-olds and think, yes, I'm going to have that kind of, because I can.
But that means nothing, because those 70-year-olds have not lived your life and don't have your genetics and all of those sorts of things. So it's like, because I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be deliberately punchy, but you're in your late 50s.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you don't look like a lot of people in their late 50s. And so, I think you can, and
this is a weird analogy because it came up at an event I was at a couple of weeks ago about dance and AI. In fact, it was dance plus AI, and
not ampersand, but plus.
Yeah, you got to use a mathematical symbol when you can. I'm being so facetious. I shouldn't. It's not fair. And it came up for me towards the end, when someone was saying, the idea that we should somehow trace the origins of data, that horse is so well and truly bolted. I agree with this, by the way, that it was a little bit like, this is the way it is. We should just forget about intellectual property and just see what we can do with what it is. And it's something quite compelling about that, or seductive about that argument, because in a sense, this person's right. That's like I say, that all that data's already been scraped.
Yeah.
But the thing about it, which I didn't get the chance to because we ran out of time, but it occurred to me at the time, is that's saying that from the perspective of now, without imagining what's going to be different about those technologies. Because talk about logarithmic change. No, not logarithmic. The other one. Algorithmic change. No, not algorithmic. The other one.
No?
The one that climbs up steeply, whereas I can never remember it. Corbetron's yelling at me now. He's yelling, no, it's this, it's this, it's this.
No, he's doing a lovely bronze sculpture and he's living his best life.
Yeah, exactly. And the...
Beautiful work, by the way, David.
That because of the rapidity of the change right now, the idea that you can say, if we make this decision now, 10 years into the future, when we have no idea what the conditions are going to be like in the future, it seemed mad to somehow kind of just toss aside an argument or toss aside thinking about, let's say, for example, intellectual property. Hence the analogy being a little bit strange. But the not being able to project into the future and what those conditions are going to be like renders the idea that we should just give up on a particular kind of way of thinking. It renders that argument, for me, a little bit, it makes it more disingenuous anyway, the argument. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. And I think it is quite an interesting analogy because, it would be I don't know what I'm going to be like as a 70-year-old, so I'm just going to stop doing anything to prepare myself for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I'm
weird,
going to stop
isn't it?
eating well. I'm going to stop exercising because, I could have a catastrophic health condition. So
Forget
why
about
am I bothering
Psychopedia,
putting it?
right?
Yeah.
I so want to. I'm just that driving me bananas. That not being able to remember, still being yelled at by Corbetron. That's the most. When something doubles, it doubles, and then it doubles, and then it doubles, and then it doubles, and then it doubles.
I can just think of the word exponential.
There you go.
That's
That's
not
it.
the word.
That's
is that
it.
what you wanted? Oh, okay, cool.
That's it.
Exponential, go.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's a word
Lovely,
I can
lovely.
never remember.
Okay, for you.
And now Corbetron, your heart rate can drop back down. You can get into your parasympathetic self, baby.
The one thing that I think brings me some comfort is the amount of time you've put into being with, and I mean here, yourself. That sense of stilling and listening and sitting, and it's a daily practice for you. And I think that gives me some comfort for you about how you might manage the changes. That, you have a daily practice of being present and being in relation to what is happening to you. And I hope that and wish that for you, that you can take that training forward.
Yeah. It's not why I do it, but I suspect it might come in handy.
See ya.
Yeah, see ya.